buildings, and they've all, as far as I know, they've all been considered to be acceptable by the engineer doing the calculations, except in one building, I know in Kent, which I worked on, where the engineers would not accept expanded polystyrene, and there was a company policy of just not accepting expanded polystyrene. I think they must have had an experience with some substandard insulation like I did.
Yeah.
And they insisted on cellular glass, which is it's trademarked foam glass, but cellular glass is the generic material. And that's an insulation made from glass foam, which also has a very, very high load-bearing ability. And that you can rest a building on that material without much difficulty.
Okay.
So you can be reassured, Greg, it's possible to rest building. If they do it in Germany now, it's obviously fairly acceptable, because until modern times, all German buildings had a cellar, and they've moved towards building slabs on the ground, resting on insulation like they do.
Well, one of the benefits of a cellar is that you take out the load that was there before, and so that increases your bearing capacity by the weight of the soil that had previously been there. So cellars are good.
That was just so expensive.
Well, they love cellars in North America, in the northern half of the USA and Canada, and they did love them in Germany and Austria, but I think they must be moving to slabs on the ground now because they're so much cheaper.
And if you haven't got if you can keep the soil or the spoil on your site and just use it for bump walls and all that, that's fantastic. But shifting soil into landfill is so.
Speaking of which, I noticed your bund.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in your landscape.
Tell us about your bund wall outside.
Yes, well, yes. If you build a rural house, you will end up with much more spoil than you will from an urban house. And because the Herefordshire soil is so wonderful, I decided
lots of topsoil.
I decided to keep it all and make it into a feature. So it's a lot of the garden is now on north-facing and south-facing slopes with their own microclimate.
But also, literally every stone has been salvaged out of it. David is so green for his drive, and I'm not kidding. Which is good.
But the feature of...
What do the planners say about your bund?
Maybe they don't know about it.
Well, it's something which, if the planners were to object to it, I don't know what I would do. But in fact,
I can't remember what it looks like from the roadside, but I'll have a look.
But if
the
you
good thing is as well,
it shelters.
Yeah, it's quite heavy traffic.
It will shelter you from road noise.
Noise.
The road is quite noisy at times.
Yeah.
But if you're building on a site which needs its own sewage disposal system, its own rainwater soakaways, and excavation for the house foundations, excavation for the septic tank, it just...
It's an awful lot of stuff.
It adds up phenomenally compared to an urban site. So you're bound to end up with a lot of soil, and if it had been poor quality, I would probably have taken it away, but it was so good I thought, well, there's a cost for taking it away.
Right, just storing it there, aren't you?
Yes, I'm just storing it.
Temporarily stockpile.
Temporarily covered with trees and shrubs to stabilise it. And
Would the planners object, potentially? I mean, I
Yes.
don't know, but
Well,
really?
it's engineering, right?
Yeah, they could, easy.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're in the
Particularly
countryside, so
some
we're
of the
anarchists. We do what we want in the countryside.
Yeah, just tell them that, they'll probably go away.
There's always dynamite. But, really?
no, it's in the countryside you only get an objection from the planners if the neighbours object, and the neighbours are fine with this.
There you go.
When
They
the
don't
neighbours-
see your house, they're happy.
And I love the mirrors in the
Yes, the mirrors help
recess. It just
helps
keep
reflect
getting light,
daylight.
reflects daylight, and also you just get an interest. You know, you can sort of see around the corners, and you get a glimpse into your garden.
Yes,
Brilliant.
the mirrors on the reveals are they're just waste mirror glass, which would otherwise have gone to landfill.
Were they something that you just added, or have you calculated their effect?
It was something which I added, having spoken to someone a chap I know in London who he's interested in old buildings, and he says that in Victorian times this was common because daylight was so valuable when electric light was expensive, and if we're going to go back to expensive energy, people are going to become more appreciative of natural light, and they're going to become keener on using every ounce of sunlight to...
Harvest every photon. That's what you said to us.
Was it?
Well, I wrote that. I'm a better writer than you. But that's what you're into, isn't it? And I'm into it. It's lovely.
Yeah, harvest every photon.
I
And
like your little peepholes. It's good.
yeah, this room as well, where I've talked to visitors, so the heat exchanger with the mechanical ventilation is below this window seat. And the window seat is much bigger than the heat exchanger because...
Is it in already?
Yeah, the heat exchanger is
Just
in.
go and have a look at it.
It's made from glass tubes, which are recycled from East Anglian maltings.
Is it interesting to you architectural people then? Is this a lot of new stuff? Is it? I've just been too busy building and helping to sort of get my head into the operation properly.
You probably can't see very much because that's the installation around the glass tubes. There's a picture of the glass tubes on...
Why are they glass tubes? Just because you could get them, or
Yeah.
there's a particular reason for glass instead of
Well,
aluminium or copper?
and the modern ones are all plastic, moulded plastic, and partly because it's a long-lived material, partly because it's a you can get it. You can make a long, thin heat exchanger which fitted into the room better than a cube-shaped heat exchanger would, because the ones made in Germany for passive house buildings are almost cube-shaped, and an almost cube-shaped heat exchanger is good in some places but not in others.
I'm curious to know why you put it on the ground floor. So I thought you were going to fall over.
Oh, because the ventilation air comes into the house via an underground pipe,
Right, okay.
which again is similar to what they were doing in Germany early on. They're now not so sure in Germany whether it's worthwhile cost-wise, but the incoming air to the house in winter to the heat exchanger comes in via an underground pipe buried in the soil and then buried in the greenhouse soil. And the greenhouse will be warmer than the outside air, partly for the plants, and it will also help to preheat the ventilation air.